I lived at the Grove in 2017 from the end of February through the end of July. And within a week of moving in, I met a nice girl who moved in shortly after me named Pi. And I met her at the dog park. And ever since then, she's been part of the buzzwords and the buzz numbers. So anytime that comes up, they make a reference to the movie Life of Pi and the movie Pi, which was directed by the guy that also did Requiem for a Dream. And just recently, in February of 2020, Requiem came up in Wordscapes, and they're like, "Ooh, Requiem, ooh." And but like as you can see here in Township, when that came up also in 2020, they were like, "Ooh, 314 Pi. Do you remember Pi?" And so this is the story that they told about Pi and other things that they did at the Grove. So this is where Pi lived, and this is where I lived. And what they said was that she was an IV drug user, and it's not my business. I don't think she is. But there were two frisbee golf catchers, and they were like, "Ooh, that represents needles." And so, like, there's one outside your apartment, and there's one outside Pies, or someone around there. We're also gang stalking them, and we're making them into an IV drug user, or more of an IV drug user, and taking advantage of their addiction, which probably wouldn't exist if it weren't for us. And they also joked about how the cul-de-sac here on the map and on their cartoonish map, it looks a lot more like this, but this cul-de-sac here that we couldn't access from the apartment because it's for the neighborhood next door, they said, "Ooh, that represents a meth pipe." And shortly after I moved in there, they used Christine Pavelka's voice, and I was walking Max around the building, and they were like, "Ooh, we're gonna drop a meth pipe in your bush." And right when I turned around the corner, like seconds later, I saw two girls walking by my apartment in the opposite direction, or I guess in the same direction I was walking in, and they were like, "We're gonna drop a meth pipe in your bush," and not the girls, but the voices, and they did it in Christine Pavelka's voice. And I saw the girl dip down, and it looked like she was dropping something or picking something up near my bushes, but I didn't see anything. They were like, "Ooh, we're gonna call the police and say there's a meth pipe in your bush, and we're gonna get you arrested." So yeah, they started the Grove off in a very paranoid way, using Christine Pavelka's voice and Terry McCoy's voice from Capital Credit Union. They used your voice as well, and they used visuals too of like you know, like Terry, like if people know Terry, you know, he does this thing where he's like, "Huh." Like, I haven't seen Terry in like 15, 17 years. I last worked at Capital Credit Union too, and he had already left the credit union, I think, by then. I don't think he was working there anymore. Last time I worked at the credit union was like 2004. That was part time. And so it's like it's been at least, or at least at that time, it'd been like probably at least 15 years since I'd seen him. But I remember like his mannerisms, you know. And he does that thing where he's like, it's sort of an awkward moment, or someone says something, and he's like, with his eyes, he's like, his little grimace. If those that know him will know what I'm talking about. And I just worked with the guy. I didn't even like, but I knew that the mannerisms, and they knew it too. And they would project that image of him doing that, and they used his voice a lot too at the beginning. They haven't used his voice much since then, but Christine Pavelka, they used your voice like a motherfucker to like threaten me, to make me feel like I was like gonna be arrested. But then like when they told that story about how like Micah was like we're like and they're like, "Oh no," like, and then like my father had been murdered or wasn't even murdered. And they made it seem like, and they tried to make me feel guilty about it as if I had plotted it myself. So I felt like, and then my door eventually was opened, and then I was walking out to try to find them because they kept making me think people were there. And I was like, "Okay, where are they?" Like Mike was there, and like, and not in a bad way. They kind of glossed over the murder part very early on, and they started making it into like a sexual or fun road trip adventure that was about to begin, sexual or non-sexual. And they made me think like Justin that used to live with me, Justin Barrera, like they kept making me think like he was in a fight club with Micah, and like that like he and like all these other people from my house were like, and they used his name specifically, and they were like blood in, blood out. Like they wanted me to kill someone that was allegedly part of the club, a guy who had actually heard them at the Studio Six, who visited me at the Studio Six and heard them when they were calling me faggot, and like he heard it too, and I saw it in his face, and I was like, "You heard that, right?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "They're calling us faggots," and he's like, he laughed. And I even had a hookup with him at the Studio Six, and like they were giving a play-by-play as if they were describing it through a peephole, you know, looking through the wall, like they were describing it to someone. like as if they couldn't put it on TV or whatever, and like, or if there were even other people there. And I'm like, I don't need a play-by-play. I'm in the play-by-play. Like, you shouldn't be watching this. You shouldn't be able to watch this, and you shouldn't be doing that if you have that capability. You should, and if you are, shut the fuck up and leave me alone. But they made it seem like they were there, and I went there, and I was running around the complex, like, where are they? Where are they? And then like Max got lost, and I went to the dog park to look for him. So after the dog park, I started walking down the streets. I was both looking for Max and looking for apparently this van that was going to pick me up, and like we're gonna go on some like road trip, and it was all going to be over, and like I was going to be able to move on with my life and into lots of fun and adventures. And on the walk, about I don't know, maybe a half a mile away from the Grove or a mile away from the Grove, I was walking up a sidewalk in a neighborhood, and I saw a hologram of what looked like kind of like the bathroom, the men's bathroom sign, if it was in a running position. So like an icon of a person in a running position. And I was actually able to walk around it. And I can't remember what color it is. I think it was blue. And then while I was standing around that, I looked up the street, and down the street, I don't know, like half a block away, there was a hologram of a green bicycle. And these things were lit up kind of like a neon sign, but not quite as bright as that. And this bicycle, like the wheels weren't turning on it, I don't believe, but it was kind of like so it looked kind of like a stationary bike without the stand. And it literally glided past me on the street and then went further down the street. And so whenever you see these projection videos that I've done, keep in mind that I've seen them lit up almost like a neon sign, just not quite as bright. I've literally seen full-blown animations, and those could have been projected into my eyes, but I've literally seen them. I've seen them project what looked like a wall of security monitors onto my wall when I was at the Manor House in 2019 or 2018, and maybe at the beginning of 2019, and where they were literally showing me footage of other people that they've been spying on, footage of either me or someone else pooping, and footage of the AC repairmen that had been there like a week or two earlier. And at the end of my walk, I didn't have my phone on me, or it was dead, I can't remember. I was sitting down at a bus station, and I think this is like at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. They kept projecting what looked like a cop car down the road, because they can project onto anything. And so they projected, and they've done this many times, the decals or the labeling for like police cars that you see on the side of the cars. They literally like did that to a car down the street, and they sometimes also do the lights as well. Usually they do the lights by themselves, but they made it seem like I was in trouble, and that they had broken into my apartment or walked into my apartment and just scattered like meth everywhere and drugs, and like destroyed the place, vandalized the place, and I was going to be arrested again. And so I was really scared, and I was like pleading with them to like do the right thing for this to end. And I hitchhiked down the road. I started walking to the road, and someone offered me a ride, and I rode back to the Grove. And then so like Max got lost, and then like my door had been opened, and I think during that period, so I lost Max, and I don't know if it was in that day period or not. It might have been a second event, but I felt like I was about to throw up or something, but I wasn't throwing up. I felt like someone was grabbing me, like I was like, and then like I got down on the floor, and then like I literally was being dragged around the apartment. Now I could have gotten up, and it sometimes like when I kind of like snapped out of it, I was like I couldn't stand up, but they literally like were making my muscles push me around my apartment. So I was literally like on the floor, and they made it fun. They made a joke about it, how they Swiffered the apartment with me, how they were moving me from room to room, and it didn't feel like a force was literally dragging me, but it felt like a force was manipulating my body, like zapping my muscles in a point, but not in a painful way, to get in like to hold me in certain ways and to push me down, like to hold me in a certain position, or like that. And then like I had never experienced anything like that in my life, so there was new capabilities coming from them with whatever they have. So they have refined that like a motherfucker. That sounds crazy. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what the fuck? They made me think that Jason from Studio 6 was coming there with Micah or without Micah, and that like he was part of it and blah blah blah. And they kept making things sexual or things like murder, and then like it was fucked up. But then like I lost Max. And they made me think that like Dory, if you're watching this, I hope that you do watch this, and I hope you do understand that like I'm not a crazy person. I'm not a drug addict. I was made to look like that by these people. And Gavin and both those maintenance men, 2 or 3 of them, I think all 3 of them are aware of this to some extent. And I'll get to that later. But I hope that you're not aware of it. If you are, you need to go to the cops. But I couldn't even look you in the face. Because they made me think that at one point when I was naked in my apartment, when the door had been opened, and I found that out like the next morning or whatever, that you'd walked in and seen me naked, just sitting there convulsing because they were like zapping me, and I was like, like that. And they made me think like I was like leaving my door open for anyone, like open for business or whatever, and they made me feel like ashamed of it, even though that wasn't the case. And I like that I also lost Max. I was so embarrassed about that because you put it in that social. It was put in that social feed. You don't use Nextdoor because you use something else. And I was so embarrassed. And a cop even showed up like to check on me, and like I didn't tell him a goddamn thing because I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what the fuck was going on with me. And I already suspected Gavin because one time he returned my keys to me on a key ring, and I had not. Those had been taken from my apartment. And I hadn't said anything yet because I thought they must still be in the apartment. But they were not left anywhere outside of the apartment. Someone took them out of my apartment while I was in the apartment, and then Gavin returned them to me. And so I didn't want to be too paranoid. I don't know why I did air quotes, but I suspected that he was aware of something. But he might have just been giving me a funny look because he was like, "Look, like get your shit together. Like don't leave your keys around." But he seemed to be behaving very weirdly.